What up, everyone? Pat Mayo here, welcoming you to Mayo Media Network. And if you haven't realized yet, this is the Real World Road Rules Challenge Duel Rewatch in 3 parts. Now, this is before it was just the challenge. This is now when we were calling it the Real World Road Rules Challenge. Although, at the duel, we'd evolved past the point of Real World versus Road Rules. That's just what it was called that time. There's a 3-part series, intro episodes, middle episodes, and final episodes, plus reunion from the crew at the Challenge Chronicles podcast. They've done this for a lot of very old seasons. They're still continuing to put everything out, but we're going to re-air their podcast of the duel up on Mayo Media Network right now for you. If you want to subscribe to the Challenge Chronicles podcast, hit the description or just put in Challenge Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you download your podcast. And Devin, Trace, and Rob will be providing the new season recaps of the challenge every single week on their podcast feed and up on the Mayo Media Network YouTube channel. So I'd recommend, once again, please subscribe, hit the like button, and enjoy the duel.
Welcome to the Challenge Chronicles. I'm Devin Jordan. I'm with Rob McIntyre and Trace Armstrong. How are we doing, guys?
We're good.
We're good.
We're here to talk about episode 11 through 16, the end of the duel. We recently released our middle episode on the duel, which covered, I believe, episode 5 through 10, the middle 6 episodes.
That is correct.
If you want to reach out to us with any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email us at thechallengechronicles@gmail.com, and please subscribe to us wherever you listen. So what did you guys think of these last episodes of the duel? I know that we all felt very positive about the season and kind of the first 2/3, but what did we think of the end?
I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I feel like this is the best ending episodes we've seen in a season we've covered so far. Like the challenge doesn't, like a lot of the seasons we've watched, like it gets less competitive or the drama tapers off, and there were still enough good storylines and enough good things happening that it holds you the whole way through the season.
Yeah, I thought it was great. This is definitely the best season that we've covered so far. I think my big takeaway from this, and I've thought about this a lot since as I watched the last 6 episodes, and then since I finished watching them earlier this morning, in that I feel like while Wes's win is definitely very deserving, I feel like my impression before this most recent rewatch was that his win was much more dominating than I now think it is after watching this season again, if that makes sense.
Completely.
It's such a weird contradiction with him, because it's like he only wins a few missions at the end, and then it seems like he only does a few things, but each of the things is super substantial.
Well, and the timing too, right? So
yeah, the timing is unbelievable.
The last 2 missions that he needs to win to save himself are both swimming missions, and then in the final, to get a 2-minute advantage over Brad, which turns out to be the difference between winning and losing, he gets a soccer challenge to start the challenge, or to start the final elimination. So there was a lot that broke his way. And my other impression that I took away from watching these last 6 episodes and the season as a whole is that Brad was much more dominating this season than I remembered him being. He is very good in multiple situations throughout the season.
Yeah, people always forget about Brad. I feel like push him pretty far below the Derricks and the Durrells of the world, but I think he's right up there.
And that's mainly because he never won. That was the thing. It wasn't until Cutthroat that he finally won, and that was by far his least dominating season. But it was his smartest It was his smartest political season he ever played.
I even think he's fine politically most of his seasons. Duel 2, I don't think you can push much against him politically.
The only season where you can criticize it.
Go ahead.
The only season that you can criticize him politically is The Ruins, but that's about it.
No, I don't even know what you can do about him on The Ruins.
You can't do anything about The Ruins, man. He had deals with everybody on the other team, But you had Casey on their team, and she literally was like an anchor that just killed them every single challenge.
If he's trying to win, he clearly should have thrown in Casey that one mission they won. But like outside of that, he had no other opportunities to do anything politically.
And my only criticism is don't get kicked off. That's the only criticism.
Yeah,
sure. I think that's not a political thing, though.
He might have made the final, but here's the thing, and I know we're way into the ruins now. So like, if he had not gotten kicked off, you probably still get the Bananas Dunbar situation because of Brad and Dunbar. Brad has seniority, so Dunbar's going in probably. And the other guys on the other team kind of had a side deal with him to not, I won't touch you if you won't touch me. But Brad was going to have to go into elimination that won the last episode because he was the last guy on the team if the same way plays out. So who does Brad go against? Is it going to be Bananas again, or is it going to be – because Evan and Kenny ain't going in. Darrell –
It's probably just Johnny again.
Well, maybe so.
That third team
I really quick. I think he doesn't beat Evan or West or Darrell. Derek, it depends on what they give him. And I think he could beat Johnny or Kenny in most events in that season.
I mean, physically, yeah. I just know that Evan and Kenny weren't going into elimination ever.
Yeah, they weren't going in.
They weren't going in.
No. I mean, if they keep him around, too, maybe they actually win a mission. Who knows?
Yeah.
That cutthroat team that wins the red team is really just like a ragtag group of people that just never actually won one, with the exception of Tori.
Yeah, Tori had won one. But that's so weird because it's like, wow, like that's Tyler's first win of 2. I mean, that's Brad's only win. Dunbar gets a win but doesn't get the money because he does a porn and violates his contract. I mean, like,
Lord.
So much about that team is just random.
What do you think?
That's why I like Cutthroat so much, is that the teams are just kind of, it's actually a mix of personalities that haven't had to interact that much. So you actually get to see the relationships develop instead of having them have some pre-existing ones.
The red team was very fun.
They're all fun.
They're all fun. Like, legitimately, every single team is a hot mess at different points of the seasons.
And they all operate so differently. Like, the red team is all just about friendships and who actually has friends on the team. The blue team is the trim the fat team, where they're just trying to get rid of all the worst players. And the gray team has this weird honor system where they kind of work a rotation for their eliminations.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird.
Yeah, but going back to, I guess, the comment that I had made about Wes, even when you look at the amount of immunity wins on challenge days where it was a male duel day, Wes won twice at the end when they happened to be swimming eliminations. But then you look at Evan's performance where he had the opportunity to win 7 immunity challenges for the men and won 4. So there were definitely people that maybe performed a little bit better, but just not in the right spots, I would say. And Wes really, timing was his friend in this season, but then he also, at this point, this is peak Wes physical performance. And I think one of the reasons why, I guess, prior to this rewatch, I kind of remembered this being a more dominating win for him. And I feel like a lot of people remember this being a more dominating win is because of how physically dominant he was. And not to say that Derek wasn't in that elimination, but how just emotional and impressive that win was against Derek in full wrestle.
Well, the secret thing about Wes, especially his earlier seasons, he kind of has like the Darrell gene, where he doesn't seem like he tries as much in the missions. Like, he's very willing to just give it up if he knows he doesn't need immunity, whereas other people kind of go for it whole hog.
I don't know.
Well, I still think that Wes
prizes once. He seems to pretty much just not care.
Yeah.
I think that's why I only talked about when I talked about like the immunity wins for the males. That's why I only talked about those. Like, if you look at like the prize winner challenges for the men, it's just like a bunch of like random people. There's like literally like no rhyme or reason to who won those. But yeah, go ahead, Trey. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that what Wes should be known for, not so much as the physical dominated performance, but he did have a master class in the political performance this season. Because
that's the thing. Go ahead.
He used a Jedi mind trick on Evan to pick CT to go into the duel. I don't know what he did.
I don't get. No, I don't get this. Like, that was the most poor editing job I've ever seen.
It is
like
real
they
weird.
never actually they never explicitly said what Evan was upset about. They just said that Evan was upset. If you watch it carefully, Evan,
I think I remember in
screwed over, but they don't state it. And I didn't watch it. Talk about it.
There's so much about that relationship that just befuddles me. The Wes and Evan relationship actually specifically, but then to Johnny and Kenny at a larger scale. There's just so much there. I think we have no idea what's going on.
Why wouldn't they just show us what he's upset about? You know what I mean? Don't you agree, Rob?
I mean, I don't know, not enough airtime. I don't know.
It was just weird. If you want to make that a pivot point of the episode, and not even of the episode, that's the pivot point of the season. That's the best Final Four of all time for this type of challenge.
Yeah, it definitely could be. I mean, it's really, really good.
It's really good.
Evan, Wes, Brad. That's as good as it gets.
It's peak of each. Oh, actually, I think Wes. It's funny. Who do you think would win in this season? This Wes or War of the Worlds 1 Wes?
That Wes. War of the Worlds 1 Wes. I don't know. War of the Worlds West one was really good, but he was up against he's up against Turbo in War of the Worlds 1. So, I don't know. I think either one of them probably would have won Duel 1.
I think, just depends on the mission layout. But I think War of the Worlds 1 West is probably better at missions than Duel West.
I think if you run this season 100 times, each of the guys in the Final Four wins around 25 times. You know what I mean? If you play this season out over and over and over in isolation, they're all very close.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Well, how consistently would Wes be able to Jedi mind trick Evan, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if that's what happened. It sounds
that's what happened. I'm pretty sure what happened is
no.
They kind of hinted at it in a previous episode. Too. Yeah, there was a hint where it was we can't beat CT in a final, so, I think he and Evan, quote unquote, had an unshaken agreement they were going to pick CT, and Wes may or may not have actually done that had he gone into the duel. And so I think that's
no, I don't think that's what it is. Wes, so what if there's an after show that Wes talks about it with?
Let me say this before I forget it, because I think it may be this. What if it's that they had an agreement that whatever one of them, if either one of them was the person that was guaranteed to go into elimination in the Final Four, at the Final Four, whatever one of them was going in had to pick CT. And for some reason, he thinks Wes screwed him out of it. But I don't get it, because he could have just picked whoever the fuck he wanted. He could have picked Brad.
No, that's
you know what
not,
I mean?
That's not what it was.
And the thing is, though, this is what I don't get about it, because he is an extremely logical person on a cast of people that are on a cast of people that are
some dumb decisions. I'm all on Evan.
On a cast of people that are absolutely batshit, he's logical. You know what I mean?
I think this incident is what made him do that in the game, because he played hard in fresh meat, but he was trying to play fair. Even in the duel here, Evan's mostly trying to play fair. Next time you see Evan is Gauntlet 3, that Evan is gone and cutthroat.
Dude, those people,
I don't give a shit.
Same with Kenny. By the time all those guys, by the time everyone comes back in Gauntlet 3, they don't give a fuck. They're ready to cut anyone, no matter who it is.
Oh yeah.
At any time of the day.
Yep.
So I pretty much know what happened. I haven't actually seen this, but I know I've seen Wes and Evan both talk about it. So Wes says they had a deal where Wes would take out both Derek and Brad if Evan could take out CT. So Wes took out Derek and then won the mission. Was all right, Evan, you got to go take out CT. And then after Evan picked CT, he realized this deal is completely unfair. Is how it's been laid out to me.
I believe that. I wholeheartedly believe that, just because of the.
Let's have him on the show.
I don't know that Evan would do it. Wes might. We could probably get Wes.
I'm gonna try and reach out to Evan. I'm gonna slip
I think Evan wants zero things to do with the challenge at this point in his life.
And see if I can even get just a 1 or 5 word response from him.
We don't even want you on the show. Just answer this question.
From what I've been told, I think both have basically said
one
that.
blink or
We're pretty confident that's what it is.
You think who said that?
No, both of them have said that from what I remember.
Where did you hear it?
They have an after show. Well, the Duel, they saw those after shows that would air. And I think Wes was on one of them and talked about it, and Evan had an interview where he talked about it.
Yeah.
Someone find it, and
after the season 2 on the reunion, Evan seems like fine with it. He just was being emotional in that moment.
I guess my takeaway from that is that they did an extremely poor job with the edit to convey exactly what happened. Because if that's what it was, just tell us that. You know what I mean? Just like give us some information. Like,
well, for one, they don't have the airtime always to tell us everything, so they have to kind of give us pretty short and truncated stories.
That's so important that they have to.
But they don't do things that way though. Even with modern seasons, they don't always show us everything going on. There's so many political things to get edited out of even modern seasons.
But that's what I'm saying. They do an extremely poor job of it. You know what I mean? We're saying the same thing.
They do. It's just not what they value.
What else was I going to say? So before I forget, I did find the videos that I mentioned in the last episode of the top 50 moments from the history of the challenge. That's like season like X through 25. Did either of you watch any of it when I sent it out?
I haven't had a chance yet. I do want to watch it because it's on my list of things to do is to watch it.
I have not had the time to watch it yet.
It's really long. Like I would just say just like glance at it, and we'll post it in the show notes for this. But it's literally like a top 50, and I think like each segment is like around an hour, and it's someone that just like put this in a Google Drive. Essentially, it's very good. I wish someone would go back and update it and do it through now, but it's definitely like entertaining. Because the last time that I watched it was like probably like 4 years ago, so it's been a minute.
All right, my Wi-Fi is acting up again, so we might need to get moving.
Wow. Okay, so before we move forward, I found an interview with Evan from 2006 when the Duel premiered, and he says this about CT, which is really interesting. He says CT's real strong and in great shape, and he's mean. There's something wrong with the guy. He's the type of guy that not only wants to beat you, but break your arms while doing it. He's the type of guy that if you're like, hey, CT, let's go for a run, and the whole time you're running, you think you're setting the pace. But then you get to a big hill, and you start slowing down, and he zooms right past you, and then laps you and creates the real pace that you can't compete with anymore. He thinks he can beat you every time and that you should be afraid of him. He's the best physical specimen I have run into. However, a lot of times on these challenges, the ones that are the toughest are the ones where you end up beating yourself. You run around the house and try to make 10 different alliances, and everyone thinks you're an idiot. A lot of these challenges are physical, but you can outsmart people. There are lots of tricks and logic that we play, but I don't want to face CT in the Duel. So he was, he didn't obviously really give away, but that's so interesting. That he
this is the interview I was talking about. He mentioned Wes here too.
Post that link in the show notes too.
I'll make that happen. It's really interesting. Wow. Okay. Cool.
This is also where he says he and Wes are like so really good friends. So there's no explanation as to why on the Ruins everybody hates him.
Yeah. Interesting.
All right, I'll try and reach out to him the same way that I tried to reach out to Susie and got zero response whatsoever.
It's all good, bro.
What was our question?
For Susie?
It was
probably about the
something really subtle.
It was about the thing where she got super upset on the Gauntlet 2 about the fake alliance or being accused of being the alliance or something like that.
It was more deep than that though.
No, I think that was pretty much what it was.
There's more to it than that, but that's like the Cliff Notes version of what we were trying to get at. Was like, hey, you seemed really upset. Did you really have an alliance, but you claimed you didn't, and then the so-and-so said you did, and it just all kind of came across as an unresolved mess at the end of the day.
I'll look at
But it was about Gauntlet 2, that's for sure.
No, definitely. All right, episode 11. Let's get moving. Before the challenge for episode 11, Stefan, Brad, Eric talk about which person is going to win the show. They think that pretty much anyone can win at this point. Brad says that he wants to keep his friends until the end. And then Eric talks about who he would throw into the Duel in general. He says that he trusts Brad, and based off of the way that they edit the show at this point in time, that means Easy is going into elimination and he's going to call out Brad. So,
okay, real quick. Is there a situation where Easy could win the show?
Yes, there is a situation. What that situation is, I don't know.
Final. Because of the final. He just can't win the final. He could get to a final, but he could not.
This final's short, man.
Yeah.
Dude, he would get smoked.
Beats if he and I don't even know who the second worst competitor would be at this point in the final.
Have you seen Gauntlet 3? Have you not seen the last episode of Gauntlet 3?
He's getting dragged by the chain by 11 other people. And
dude, that's like the one. It's one of like the most visceral moments I've ever seen on TV. Like the emotion that comes from each of the contestants on the veterans team as they realize that they just lost. How much money were they going to win? I don't even remember.
Not even that much.
But it was the fact that they were so sure that it was going to happen. You know what I mean? They thought it was in the bag. And then they thought it was in the bag the entire time. And it's like you thought that you were going to get like a car for Christmas. And you knew that it was going to happen for like 6 months. Like your parents were like, yeah, like what color do you want? Like let's go to the dealership and pick out the one that like really like fits what you want to do. You see them talk to the person at the dealership. They talk to the car salesman. Christmas morning comes, no car. That's what the gauntlet is.
It's like when I forget what it was. I think it was just like a GIF or something of the dad who was like telling his 16-year-old daughter, "Hey, we have a surprise in the driveway party," and they go out there and it's just a sweater with a bow on it.
That's brutal.
Well, but anyways, so is there a way you think he can win this final? Because I think he could if he just beats whoever in the soccer competition. I don't know who the person.
I don't know, man. That trying to do that seesaw for him might be a little difficult.
Dude, I think it's only 2 minutes. You know what I mean? So I think what it comes down to. So this is how he could win. If someone maxes out the puzzle, and he like has an out of body experience, like in like he like goes beautiful mind, and it just like falls together like on his first like attempt. That's how we.
I mean, but the thing is, everyone else is so good that's left.
Yeah. So no, I don't feel like very low probability. We're talking about like one out of 10.
If like Johnny or Tyler or even Kenny or Nehemiah were still hanging around, maybe he could be one of them. But I don't know if he could beat any of these guys.
DM and CT talk about or shown at a bar, or I don't know if it's a bar, but it's outside. They're talking about what their first kiss will be like, because DM tells us in a confessional that she has a rule that she will not kiss anyone unless she's known them for 3 weeks, which interesting, good for her. And
is it also hard to believe that they filmed this entire season thus far in 3 weeks? Like that's pretty unreal when you think about the pace of the show now.
Well, they take forever to film now.
I mean, they're like gone 10 weeks sometimes.
I think it's just I don't know. I think they just film an extra long amount of time now. Like I don't even think for other reality shows that's that long. Like I mean that 3 weeks would be that like long within the show.
They go to a conversation between Wes and Evan where they talk about how they want Easy to call out CT because they're, and this kind of goes off of what we've talked about for most of the show. They're both apprehensive about the idea that they go in against CT, and because a lot of these dual eliminations are physical in strength, and they don't want to be the ones that have to go against CT, and they think Easy has the best shot to potentially knock out CT. And that gets us into the challenge for episode 11. And randomly, TJ has lost his voice at the start of this challenge.
I noticed that too.
Which was interesting. And the name of the challenge for episode 11 is Stacking Chairs, right? Yeah, Stacking Chairs. And this one's pretty basic, and I enjoyed this one. So there will be a heat of 3 teams and a heat of 2 teams. You will be paired with a cast member of the opposite sex. The object is to stack wooden crates high enough to climb up and grab a flag out of the air. And it kind of takes place in this large warehouse. So you just stack up these crates until you can reach up high enough and jump and get the flag. And the prize for the women is the NHL prize package, which Evan won in the previous episode. And it is a male duel day. So whoever wins for the men is guaranteed safety. What did both of you think of this?
It's a good challenge. Yeah, it's not great. It's not bad. It's just a good, solid daily challenge.
It's funny because usually I am so much more of a like gameplay and format person when it comes to seasons I really enjoy. But I don't think there's anything that's that special about this gameplay or this format. It's just the storylines going on this season that I think are so interesting.
This one was the first heat for the men was really interesting because it comes down to Brad and Wes pretty much running up and having to jump up for their flags at the same time. And Brad it comes down to Evan and Brad having to run up and jump at the same time. And it pretty much happens in a split second. And who ends up getting it? Is it Evan that gets it?
It's Evan that gets it.
Yeah. And then for the second heat, who wins this one? In the second heat, it's Anissa and Big Easy that are partnered with this. So they really have no chance because you really have to be able to you really have to be able to get to the top and then be able to jump up and like have enough lift off of your vertical jump to be able to get it. And neither of them are really able to do that. What I thought was interesting is that they only did this in 2 heats. You know what I mean? So it's not like they took the winners and had them compete afterward. It was pretty much you each competed and then whatever your time was your time. This seems like the type of challenge that they would normally have like a final round where the winner of each heat would compete against each other.
I'm happy they didn't, though. I don't see the reason for it.
Yeah, this is a time thing. Actually, with Rob there, I think that was probably the best way to do it because, yeah, it just was. It works.
It just would seem unnecessary.
So Jody starts off the selection Evan starts off the selection for the duel. And it comes down to Svetlana having to decide between Wes and Big Easy, and obviously and wisely, she chooses to save Wes. This means that Easy will go into elimination, and he decides that he wants to go against Brad, and everyone is shocked. Mouths the jar. No one can believe it, but I mean, when you think about it from a logical perspective, that's probably who Big Easy should pick.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, no, I wouldn't want to go against Wes after what happened with Derek.
Well, I don't see.
Brad talks about it.
There's not much
Brad
of a play for him here, though.
I mean, who's the better choice? I mean, yeah, like, do you want Wes, Evan, or CT? Oh, let's take Brad.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's not like there's a great option here for him.
Do you want to die from a knife wound or a gunshot? You're going to die either way.
That's pretty much what it comes down to. I was watching a Radiolab episode earlier where they were talking about torture in Guantanamo Bay, and someone with in-depth knowledge of what goes on there asked the interviewer of the podcast whether he would want to be tortured by having to listen to the Barney theme song for 2 weeks straight, or if he would rather have a razor blade taken to his male parts. And the reporter said, well, I guess I would probably pick the Barney song. And the guy that asked him that goes, well, you're wrong. And this is why.
I actually would believe it because your male parts will get cut up, but they will heal. Whereas for 2 weeks straight, all you're hearing is "I love you." I might shoot myself or hang myself in my cell.
They didn't specify volume though.
This was his logic, and it was pretty much what you said, that there's an end in sight with one, whereas the other one it's eternity.
I mean, what happens if you get an accidental vasectomy though?
Yeah, you're not having kids then.
I mean, if you're in Guantanamo Bay, you're probably not going to have a chance to have kids again anyway.
It was a really interesting. They're doing a series on this one person, with this one inmate in Guantanamo Bay. It's called The Other Latif. If anyone's interested, they should go check it out. But that gets us into the elimination for episode 11. And at this point, there's 13 minutes left in the show, so something good's going to happen, whether it's in the elimination or something afterward. And something that I thought was interesting is that TJ makes a point to say that the person that was guaranteed to go into elimination, now that because this is, I don't know if I said it, the competition that they will compete in is pole wrestle. And they explicitly make a point to say that the person that was guaranteed to go into elimination, this being Easy, gets the first opportunity to grab the wooden stick that they will wrestle over. So at this point in time, I wonder if it became obvious between all the contestants that that's a huge advantage, and they just wanted to make a point to emphasize that.
I think they just realized they should never do the I Can elimination again, and they didn't want to have that happen amongst this final bunch.
This actually goes by pretty quick, and in my notes I have.
Say what?
What?
Well, I can't
happen 3 times.
No, but I'm saying
3 times.
This.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. I got that wrong. Never mind.
All right. So this one is pretty open and shut, and I don't. In my notes, I have, how does Easy not win this? You know what I mean? Like, what is
he doing?
I don't know.
He's laying down on top of it.
Svetlana has a confessional here where she's apparently the John Wooden of pole wrestle and criticizes Easy's technique and says that he has no approach to what's going on. And
it's true.
Everyone
Svetlana is like Russian, right? So maybe she's seen like some Russian mafia pole wrestle fights in the gulag somewhere. I don't know.
I was thinking she was going like more like hockey fighting techniques.
It's really
whatever is going on here. Easy is a disaster. This is terrible.
Everyone runs over and congratulates Brad for his victory. TT says that he's happy that Brad won because he didn't want to have to be the one that took out Easy. And after the elimination, Brad and Wes said that really changed the game because they don't have to worry about anyone going up against Easy, which no one.
I wouldn't be that worried about it at this point. Like, I don't think we really harp on this enough how bad this game is here. It's a disaster.
I just wouldn't want to have to do it. You know what I mean? It may make you think differently about it, but you still don't want to do it. If that makes sense.
So let's play this out here. So we've already seen him in pole wrestle. I think Wes would clearly beat him in pole wrestle at this point after we see him beat Derek the way he did. I think CT beats him. I think everybody else in the game at this point beats him in pole wrestle.
After seeing that, yes, definitely.
And then I think in Ascender he just loses.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think in I can't you really just like throw your hands up in the air. Who knows? And then push me would be the hard one. But even then, after seeing this, I would not be that unconfident in that.
I might as well be a coin flip, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just like, who knows? That's a complete coin flip between Easy and whoever.
Last mention of podcast that I listened to, on this other podcast that I listened to, they talk about this idea for a show that one of them has called the $1 Million Coin Flip. And it's a show based around literally bringing someone on TV and flipping a coin, and whatever they call out determines whether or not they win $1 million.
That seems like it'd be a lot of money lost by the producers.
I don't know. It's honestly, it'd be like relatively cheap for production if you think about it.
They keep hucking out millions of bucks.
Yeah, but I mean, you're doing it like twice a year.
Oh. Well, if you're only doing it twice a year, how are you making a show out of it?
Ad revenue, followers, the suspense. I don't know. That was their idea. I don't think they thought about it too in depth. And
evidently not.
But
is it a rigged coin?
I think it was just kind of like a joke about the idea of like the suspense and like kind of what it would do to you if you literally had to choose heads or tail over whether or not you would win $1 million, and kind of like the focus around that specific character and like building up to it and then after. So I mean, you could like technically do a season about like kind of like what they're thinking about like going into the coin flip and then the aftermath if they lose. Can you imagine if you had a coin flip and you could have won $1 million and you guessed wrong?
I mean, it's just what it is. Like, I don't know. Like, I could have been born with Bo Jackson's athleticism too. That didn't happen.
The end of the episode is one of the most memorable moments of the season and probably in the show's history, where we get CT and DM out on a cliff next to the water and they have their first kiss, and DM comes into the house in a conversation with Wes later and realizes that everyone in the house saw them kiss, and she talks about how she didn't want that to happen, but she's really happy because of where her relationship with CT is right now and kind of what he's been able to do for her. So it's a really good moment.
Yeah, and then Wes and Evan give her a hug, and as they're walking away, Wes says, "Our baby girl is grown up and making out with slime balls."
And then they cut to CT in the pool like he's the Mac Daddy. It's pretty hysterical the way they edit it, but Yeah, it's a cool moment, man. Especially because, I mean, this was a long running storyline, both on the show and off the show, in their personal life, and if you call the challenge their professional life as well. I mean, this was a big catalyst to a lot of stuff that happened seasons and seasons down the road.
That transitions us into episode 12, where everyone's out at the bars and DM talks about how TNT has impacted her life in a positive way, and they're shown together at the bars, and then we get a conversation between Kina and Jody, and about how they want Svetlana to go home. Kina starts to talk about how she's a good competitor. That means she's going home this episode.
Yeah, visibility spike for Kina, which is great for this episode, but not good.
It's sad because she's going home.
Yeah, exactly.
Love me some Kina.
I love Kina. We need to have her on the podcast. That's what we need to do.
Reach out to her.
I don't know if she has any sort of means of reaching out.
Did her and Randy ever get married?
No way.
Oh no, that didn't happen.
She's married though, but not with Randy.
Yeah, I remembered before DM got sick the last time, she ran into Kina at a bar in New York City, and they took a picture together. And like it was a thing, like, oh, Kina's still around. Okay,
well, she was on Road Rules Viewers Revenge with Susie and Veronica,
Tori, and all them.
Abram, her else on that season.
Svetlana talks about how she's unhappy and she wants to win with pride, and that the people that play the game are the ones that make it dirty. We get into the challenge for
she's also aligned with Wes.
Episode. Yeah.
I never have understood that argument from people on reality shows. Like, I want to win it the right way. It's like, dude, I would cut your mama if I could win that money.
Like, it's part of the game. That's one thing I think the show does need to emphasize. Playing the politics is part of the game.
It's
the game
a dirty
is not
game.
Just the competition.
Yeah, I agree.
Part of the game is playing the politics, and it would help the show because you need to encourage the cast to be more involved.
And it's funny later on in the show's history, I like have a vivid memory of like TJ calling out Easy at one point when he's in elimination, and TJ like kind of acts surprised that Easy's down there, and he's like, Easy, not doing enough politicking, and he's like, I guess not. But like,
you're on a team. You're on
my
a team
favorite
with Johnny Bananas. He doesn't have a prayer of not going in elimination. I'm sorry.
My favorite TJ politics one is where he's talking to CT and DM on Battle of the X's, and he like gets mad at them for not throwing in Mark and Robin or Johnny and Camilla at the end.
I'll have to go back and watch that one.
That one's pretty funny, and he's 100% right too.
He's like, really? Are you for real?
Men and women will compete separately. Competitors will run to retrieve giant blocks of ice, take them back to their designated stations, and break the large blocks of ice with a sledgehammer as they push the ice through a grate and into a bucket. The man and the woman that has the most amount of water in their bucket after 5 minutes wins. And I already said it, or alluded to it, but it'll take place in 2 heats, one for the men and one for the women. Most weight wins. This is a female duel day. Anissa talks about how she might have to go into the duel that day. And the prize, again, is set up golf clubs and lessons from the David Ledbetter Golf Academy. Thoughts on this one?
Meh.
It's fine. There's a lot of just meh missions this season. Like they're good for what they are. There aren't many complaints, but there's also not many I would go back and rewatch that much.
Yeah. Overall, the Duel 2 is much better on the daily challenges than Duel 1 is.
I didn't think this challenge was enjoyable. One of the few that I thought was just like not good. This is like a throwback to kind of like some of the earlier challenges that they had.
This is like we'd expect Extreme Challenge to have, and then have them go to the Court of Judgment's lane afterwards.
See, I would have said this was Johnny Mosley with a whistle wearing an Iceman costume.
Oh, so I was thinking Eskimo outfit.
Eskimo would have been great, but it's too hot for that. Even Johnny's not that.
Oh no, he's committed enough. We'll go
with the Eskimo costume, and then the winner gets like a year of free Baskin Robbins ice cream coupons.
How much money would you pay?
Right? That's not a thing.
Or do they prefer Inuit? I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I really don't know.
How much would you? Yeah, I think we're just going to say I don't know. I legitimately do not know.
I really don't know.
How much would you pay because I'm contemplating a dollar mine in my amount right now, to have Johnny Mosley and TJ co-host a season.
Oh, wow.
You see, I would only do that. I would only do that if there is a YouTube show or an MTV.com show that's exclusive to just the backstage things of TJ being like, what the fuck is up with this guy? I just want to see the background. Like, on screen, they'll make it work, but it's the off-screen interaction I would want to see of that.
So, like,
I think
an additional
show. Probably
show.
relatively normal. He just shows up in just wild outfits and is off the rails.
I would probably pay like $40. I think that's the top I'm going to go.
Oh,
but I would
go higher.
I'd go higher than that. That's at least worth $1,000.
Well, no way. I paid $1,000 to see that. Come on.
I mean, can you imagine the material if we had enough influence to make that happen? We'd make it up and add money some way.
We should do a GoFundMe. That's what we should do.
That would be. We'd be hurting for funds on that one. I feel.
Yeah,
like.
I have a feeling there's only a select few that are that. I don't know. I get some interesting emails from time to time.
I feel like that would be all the people 60% our contributions and then 40% the estate of Johnny Mosley.
I don't know, dude. He's got that NBC contract. He's probably fat and happy, man. He's probably just loving his life.
It would be all the people that bought the Johnny Rule Police shirts. That's who we could count on.
All 7 of you. We appreciate you.
Very much.
Our top seller is still the Challenge Chronicles logo shirt, so good times.
Really? Over the Johnny Rules Police shirt? That's stunning.
Yeah.
Dude, I think I would I don't know. I don't think I'd know how to respond if I saw someone on the street with a Challenge Chronicles t-shirt.
Because they don't know what any of us look like, so.
That's true. Well, no, I mean, I would put on video on Pat's shows at least. So
that's true. They know what Rob looks like if you've watched the Pat Mayo Experience. That's fair. If you go to my Twitter account, you know what
Pat show.
What's that?
Rob, what do you do when you go on Pat's show?
What do you mean?
Like, what's the gimmick? Like, what do you guys just shoot the shit? Or like, is there
it's just the challenge. It's pretty much like, there actually was a gimmick last episode. We'll leave that for the people. If people want to know what the gimmick is, go search MTV The Challenge Total Madness Fantasy Preview, and you will find the gimmick that I cooked up for Pat and I show.
I haven't listened to the current episode, but I really actually, not just because he's been on our show, which we thank him for that, and we hope to have him back again. I actually have really dug what he does to cover the challenge. It's actually, it's very different from what a lot of the other people do. So I really like what Pat does.
I didn't know if you went on there and talked about fantasy football too, because he does that as well, right?
Unfortunately, I do not have the credentials to get up to that level yet. I can't just show him me winning my fantasy home league every year to get.
I was about to say, Rob's got to pay some more dues before he can get to that point.
Exactly. I'll get my way up to NBA and NFL betting at some point, but I got a ways to go.
We get into the selection process, and it comes down to Brad, and he has to decide between picking Svetlana and Anissa to be safe. He chooses Anissa, and I think at this point, Svetlana and Anissa have decided that they want to trade off for who goes into the duel because they know that they will be going in last unless someone, or they will be guaranteed to go in unless someone from their alliance happens to win the mission for the day, which at this point...
And even then, one of them is probably still going in anyway, so yeah, one of them is always going in at this point.
Actually, yeah, they did say it at this point. I just saw it in my notes. Svetlana decides that she will pick Hina. Svetlana, out of the deck of cards that TJ presents to her, draws Push Me. And she makes a comment about how the first time was a pain in the ass, but we get Push Me here. And I don't really want to describe it because that is also a pain in the ass to describe what this is, but it's pretty much just like a log that's held parallel above the ground on a pivot point in the middle. And you and your opponent stand on opposite ends and try and push the log and push your contestant back as the log pivots around and try and grab a flag in front of you. And this one actually lasts a very long time. This is the same challenge or elimination that Svetlana previously won, and I say win with an asterisk next to it, against Beth, when Beth pushed Svetlana back, and when she went to get the flag, ripped the flag off the carabiner, and I think I have this in my notes later, but I'll say it now. But this flag is held to this carabiner with Velcro. It's like held on with like.
So weird.
Kina starts to. Go ahead.
No, it was more about the end of the elimination. You can recap it first.
Well, I was going to just end it right now. So 30 minutes in, it doesn't seem like anyone has a clear advantage. And then at the 47-minute mark, Kina starts to make some noises and then all of a sudden gets out. Svetlana runs forward and gets the flag. And in my notes, I have that this is pretty much a toss-up. But at the end of it, it doesn't really seem like it because Kina really takes it hard. She starts to cry. She starts to complain about her foot and about how much pain it was in. And afterwards, Svetlana looks like she could have gone for a much longer period of time.
Yeah. I mean, quite frankly, I think she just started getting cramps. And when those cramps set in, it just hurts. That's all you can do. It hurts.
Okay, isn't the move here to let Svetlana be about to rip it off the carabiner and then just clock her with the pole?
That's the way I'd have played it.
Well, that's what Brad does. Well, no. Oh, yeah, because it gets far enough back where the pole isn't even around her. Because Kina just pretty much lifts her legs up and gets almost flung backwards.
Does it
she
spin
just
60 degrees?
Oh yeah,
she
could have easily just knocked her out with it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. She could get up like a battering ram and just fling it around and try and knock her out.
Because I don't know but that honestly is.
And then Johnny Mosley pops up with a whistle and goes, "Hey, bro, can't do that."
Well, I don't see why can't she do that. What does it say she can't do that?
Johnny will find a way to make it a rule. I promise.
No, I think that's completely fair game.
That's kind of what Brad does against CT because CT
a little different, but yeah.
I know he smokes Brad, and Brad said that all he can really do is kind of just shake it and try and get in CT's way, and that's what happens. And I don't know how much that actually influenced CT and what happened, but that was his stated strategy after the fact. Brad has a number of those really savvy moves, like the last multiple in both
duels against Landon, man, swinging the carabiner, smart.
In the final elimination, and has some really wonky victory.
Yeah, I mean, very savvy that Brad. Unfortunately, I have to say goodbye to Kina here, though, for good, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah, we see Kina on Road Rules Viewers Revenge, but she never pops back up on the challenge ever again after this. Sad.
Bring her back, MTV.
Evan goes up to Svetlana, or to Kina here, and has a really funny moment. He's like, "What the hell's the matter with you?" And Kina's like, "Get out of here." But it was good in real time. And that gets us into episode 13. Wes and Evan are talking outside. Evan says that they have good and bad blood. So I guess that's the foreshadowing of what's about to come. Evan says that they agreed that they would look out for each other and that the only person he thinks he can't beat is CT, which...
This logic here is so flawed. I know we've talked about it a little bit already, but it's just so weird.
I know. I just don't get it.
Why does he think he has a better shot against CT in an elimination versus the final?
Because you can win you could probably win an elimination in a fluky way, as we have seen, but in a final, it's a lot harder to.
Well, what's there to indicate CT some monster in a final?
I don't know. Yeah. So
to this point, we haven't.
In Endurance mission where they run across the sand, Evan beats him.
But that was on a technicality. CT actually beat him, but he didn't grab the right flag first. I mean, that's what happened.
No. I'm not talking about that one. I'm not talking about the sprint. I'm talking about the one right before the pole wrestle where it was DM's birthday and they're running up the tarps on the sand.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Is he smoking cigs all the time? I don't think CT is some person who would picture be an A+ in a final.
He was.
I think CT actually might be ahead of Evan in that one where they run up the tarp. And then Evan just comes up with a strategy to kind of just stick his feet in the tarp like daggers. And then Trace, good memory, CT is also ahead of him in the elimination where they have to do wind sprints after they eat food. But just to say it, Evan says explicitly that his logic is that he thinks he has a better chance to beat CT now in a duel and then win the final as opposed to not taking CT out at all and then going up against him in the final. Because I don't know if we've also said this, but it doesn't seem like second place gets any money beyond their appearance fee this season. Correct?
No, it doesn't.
No, it's a winner take all. It said it was $300,000 in cash, and it was $150 a piece. So that you lose, you just get your appearance fee and your nominal SAG minimum for appearing on an episode.
Yeah, Evan apparently has not gotten the Cornell education yet.
He's at Cornell, but he has not gotten his degree at this point.
It shows.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know, dude. I think we're just missing
some pretty moronic. Okay,
I mean, it's a bad move. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a terrible move, but
I think it's horrific. So, I think it's.
I just don't get. Yeah, I just don't get. It is because he doesn't pick Brad, right? So I agree that it's an absolute terrible move in the sense that he picks Brad, but I feel like as viewers, they do a very poor job of explaining to us why he picks CT instead of Brad. And that's, I think, my ultimate take on this. Because we're all in agreement. We're all in agreement that he should have not picked CT, right? We're all in agreement.
Yes.
I'm just saying
we're not 100.
They do not tell us. For me personally, they do not give me enough information to be like, okay, at least I can see his perspective. I do not see it.
I think we got his perspective. He thinks at this moment that he's giving his confessional, he thinks he has a better shot of beating CT and an elimination than a final. But so his logic is
what happens later on?
His logic is the combined probability.
That's the thing. What happens? Go ahead.
There's just the logic of the combined probability of beating a CT in an elimination and then beating Wes or Brad in a final is higher than just beating any of the three who could possibly make the final is ridiculous.
I understand that that's what he's saying here, but then what happens later on where he acts like Wes is screwing him over, and
he just realizes Wes outsmarted him, and that's wrong.
Yeah, I actually have confirmed.
He didn't have to pick him.
I have confirmed Rob's deal. And apparently Evan and Wes did have an alliance, and Wes said, "Hey, I'll take out Derek and Brad if you can take out CT." And that was the deal. And so Wes basically said, hey, you got to live up to your end of the deal. You said you would pick CT. And so like Wes apparently was really egging him on like, hey, you told me you would pick CT when we made this deal. And so that's where the thing comes from. And that's when Evan just realizes like Wes and I made an alliance where it was way better for him than for me. And that's what he was mad about.
I don't even know if that's true. If the alliance follows as stated.
They just need to show me that then. That's all I'm asking. Like, it doesn't take that long. There's a bunch of bullshit that happens in the show. Just show me that.
Yeah,
where do you
I'm with you. They want to keep you in the dark partially, though. I don't think they really feel the need to tell you.
I don't know, man. This is such a huge game changer, and it's such an odd decision as a viewer. It's like, in this game, like, everyone has acted like, hey, I don't want to go up against CT, and then all of a sudden, Evan's like, I'm going to pick CT.
I think they're fine keeping us. I don't think they care about keeping us in the dark with a lot of these things. They don't think we enjoy it that much.
In the episode description, and then there's another interview that I have tracked down where Wes explains the deal. Basically, was like, "Hey, I'm going to take them out," and the deal was Evan had to pick CT. And then when it came time to do it, Evan didn't want to do it, and Wes was like, "You have to do it. You told me you would do it." So Evan stuck to his word of his alliance, but Evan figured out when it happens, like, "Yep, I screwed myself here." That's basically what happened.
Is this an MTV interview?
Yeah, it's like one of those like
it's
not an MTV interview. It's like some recap thing, and Wes is talking about what happened.
All right, send it to me, please.
I'll find it.
He has an after show recap where he talks about it too. That's been stated across multiple platforms. I'm pretty sure Evans talked about it too that way. I think he was just emotional in the moment. I don't think
it's just such a big moment that I don't have like a full explanation for, and I think that's my issue with it.
Well, but they do that a ton, man. Like they always leave us on.
Not like this.
Yes, like this.
Where else do they?
Okay,
to this extent, where?
Okay. On this last season, there was 2 game-changing things that happened they didn't show. One, on the episode where it was the double elimination where Theo and Jordan go in. If they win those eliminations and they flip over to the U.S. team, that game could have been completely different. But what they don't show is that, first of all, Paulie specifically tells CT, you guys have to put Kyle in. You can't put Theo in. Because what they're trying to do is comfort Theo and thinking he'll be protected if he goes back to the UK team. And then through that entire cycle to that point, the entire UK team was like, "Oh, Team UK, we're good. We'll be good, whatever." And comforting Theocy would come back to their side. That was full ploy. They didn't show anything of. And then secondly, in the episode where Tori gets voted in on the girls on the US team, which prompts her and Jordan flipping over, that the US team explicitly states to her and Jordan that they would rather throw in Nani. They say that at multiple points to say, hey, if one of you guys votes Nani, because Leroy won't, we'll put Nani in ahead of you and you won't go in. But her and Jordan don't do that, and then they throw in Tori, and then that sets off that whole chain of events. And then also by Leroy not voting with Leroy not voting with Nani at that point, it also saves Nani from going into elimination, because if he had voted in anybody else, the UK team was planning to throw Nani in. They don't show any of that, and that completely changes this. That was a completely season-changing move on both fronts.
I don't know. Write an article for me, and I'll read it. I don't really remember what happens. All right, send me the link. Put it in the show notes.
I'm sending it. I'm sending it to you. The podcast that Wes did about it right now.
So, and I guess this is my takeaway. That's the issue, is that there are a lot of instances like that where they leave us in the dark about some things. That's just what this is a comment about. That's the overall comment.
We just have to remember, we're watching a producer-driven TV show where they're trying to drive forward a narrative.
100%.
They're trying to drive forward a narrative that will be most beneficial for their getting them viewers. That's what they're trying to do. That's what any reality TV show too.
100%. We get to the challenge for episode 13. This challenge, a woman can win the motorcycle, their own motorcycle, the same motorcycle that Brad won in a previous episode. The challenge is called Sunken Treasure, and challengers will compete in teams of 2. On the sound of the horn, they will jump into the water and swim towards an underwater plastic bubble that the challengers will be able to enter and breathe in while they are underwater. The goal is to swim from the bubble and remember the numbers that are imprinted on an anchor underwater. One person will get the numbers from the anchor, while the other person will take the numbers from their partner while they're in the bubble and use them to unlock a treasure chest that has 3 locks on them. Once you unlock the treasure chest, the ball will be released, and your time ends once the ball reaches the surface. The challenge has a 15-minute time limit. And thoughts?
It's a good challenge. I mean, it's challenging.
The too strict.
Yeah, and
it works out for
the reason why is that only one person actually completes it in time, which is Wes and
Svetlana.
He's his partner, Svetlana.
Made for them too.
Svetlana completed it. Correct, and it seems like even he didn't have. Well, actually, no, he cruised through this one. What am I saying?
Svetlana was one who's having some more trouble, but I mean, it's definitely not an easy mission.
No, it's hard, and I think they have to have a time limit just for safety reasons. To be honest with you,
yeah,
like if they had to.
True.
I mean, 15 minutes at that high pressure is a lot. And then if it kept going, someone could have really gotten hurt. So I think a 15-minute time limit for something like that is pretty good.
I've had numerous bad experiences with snorkeling, so I don't think I'd hang well in this mission.
And I don't do well with like water pressure like that. So I would probably really, really suck at this.
And Wes and Svetlana actually only complete this like right before the 15 time limit.
There was like 5 or 6 seconds less. Like there was not much time left at all when they finished.
How many does Svetlana get with this one compared to Wes? Did Wes get like all of them?
What do you mean?
The codes.
No, you're not allowed to do that. So because remember, only one person can go get them, and then they communicate it back to their other partner, who then goes and undoes the lock.
Oh, that's right. I must have been watching it wrong.
So Svetlana read it, and then Wes did the unlocking.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Because that's how CT and DM get DQ'd. Because DM initially tries to go look at the codes on the anchors, says that she can't see them, and then CT tries to go and see the codes, and they get DQ'd right away after TJ said it in the intro to the challenge. But Brad finishes right after the 15-minute time limit. So he was neck and neck with Wes here. So this is another kind of good moment for Brad in this season. But Wes gets his first win of the season. It starts the selection process. And it comes down to Anissa, and she has to pick between CT and Evan. she picks CT to be safe because she said that CT had kept her safe before and wanted to pay it back. Evan, this is where we get Evan's logic, where he talks about how he has a better chance to win the whole game if he goes against CT now than he does if he goes against CT in the final. Evan picks CT. Evan then draws the sender out of the cards from TJ. And after the selection, Evan tells Wes that he feels like he got screwed over. In my notes, I say that I don't get what the issue is. And
Evan tries to cheat.
Elimination.
Oh my gosh, this is not the best from Evan.
Was it? So
this is it. Like he
they never said that you couldn't do it.
That's true.
So this is what happened. So we get into the elimination, and Evan has written down the answer to the puzzle for a sender, and TJ sees it and tells him to take it off. At any point in time, did they ever say explicitly? Did they say that you could not do that? Did they say that you could not write the solution to the puzzle?
No, but we've already stated multiple times. They do not show us everything. So.
Yeah. Who knows? There could have been a thing, or maybe TJ's just like, yeah, no, dude, you're not going to win that way. Like, I could see that.
Yeah.
Making a production decision.
I think that's what it is.
Like, nah.
I don't think they thought anybody would think it was beneficial to do it.
But see, Evan has even said in podcasts, like every challenge, he's trying to find the loopholes and like trying to find ways to legally cheat to win it. And so,
which is funny because he also does some things that are unnecessary sometimes. Like remember when he carries the bike with him up the pole and
my God, yes, that's one of the funnier things I've seen on a challenge. And even the rest of the guys were like, "What are you doing?"
Man, Evan is just all over the place with his intelligent versus what are you thinking decisions.
Yeah. And the thing is like watching this back, the one comment I had is that Evan got in his own head. Because if he'd have kept a level head, like he very well could have done this, but he was like nervous and he was worried and he was just like really, like Rob said, he's all over the place. And it just seemed like he beat himself before the challenge even started.
I don't know. I think I disagree. I think he just got flat out beat. Like this is made for CT. Like this is like peak CT. Like
I remember. Know.
Yeah. Like
we didn't know that CT was a puzzle guy up until this point.
No, he had a significant lead going into the puzzle, and we do know now that CT is good at puzzles. So the combination of those two makes this like puts this on a T for CT. Because I think there was an elimination. I don't know. Maybe not.
Before this season, CT only went into elimination one time, and that was against Shane and the Cookies. Aside from that, correct. CT's never been in elimination, and in the finals, we never see him like really solving a puzzle. Like this was the first time I think that we realized, like, oh, CT actually is good at puzzles too, because he solved that puzzle fast. Like it was quick.
Yeah, I know. I'm agreeing with that we didn't know, but I'm just saying that like. This fits his strengths.
Yeah. Now we know that for sure.
I don't think there was anything Evan would have a better shot at him against. I mean, maybe push me with how it turned out because you can just shake the pole. Maybe he messes up again. Or I guess I can, like we've said, it's pretty 50-50. So who knows?
I can that's a big crapshoot.
And I really shouldn't even count, honestly.
CT wins pretty easily here. It's rough that I have in my notes that it's rough that we got a sender for this elimination instead of pole wrestle.
Pole wrestle would be unbelievable.
Oh my gosh. Evan versus
I think CT kind of just like railroads Evan though, honestly, with Evan's state of mind here.
Oh yeah, because Evan was not mentally ready to do that elimination watching the show.
No, he had psyched himself out so much. He looks really defeated too after losing. Like he's like really in his own head.
Yeah, wouldn't you? You just lost $150,000.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not disagreeing. And,
yeah, I just really think, like, I'm really of the opinion with Rob there, too. Like, it's just, like, he was beat before he started that elimination. Like, he mentally was not ready to do it. And afterwards, it was very apparent that he was just not ready.
That's pretty much all that happens for episode 13 and gets us into episode 14, where CT and DM are practicing pole wrestle on a mattress at the house.
The actual game pole wrestle, not a euphemism there, folks.
Yeah.
Just want to point that out.
DM says that she doesn't want, if she goes into the duel, she doesn't want to draw ICAM. She thinks that's the one that she has the worst chance of winning.
Foreshadowing.
What she's going to pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We also get an interesting fun fact here that I don't remember who actually states it, but Svetlana and Anissa talk about how there have been, it may have been one of those two. Svetlana and Anissa may have talked about how there have been 6 female duels to this point, and they have been in 4 of them, which means
wow,
that's amazing.
And at this point, it's Anissa and Svetlana versus Jody and DM. We get to the challenge for episode 14 called Around the Block. And what this is there's a 40-foot rig shaped like a rectangle that's lifted in the air by a crane with the long edges pointed up. And competitors will have to climb around the rig and collect flags as they go through the process. Each flag is worth 1 point. And at the very top of the rig, in the middle of the rectangle, there's a flag that's worth 3.5 points. And the men and the women will compete separately. The women that wins is safe from the duel. And the male who wins, I don't even remember what they get. So it couldn't have been that good. But I don't know. This one was fine.
There's not many like polarizing missions this season.
Yeah.
Like, what's the best one?
This is.
Oh, good question. I hadn't even thought about that before we sat down, and usually I have like an answer for that.
Like roller derby?
That one's good. Hold on, I'm gonna pull up the list just because I have to remind myself.
Pushover. It's probably pushover. Right? Or no? I think it's pushover. The pole dance one is pretty.
You know what? I really liked. There were 2 of them I really liked. It was the one. What's the one where they go? Shoot, I'm sorry. I'm losing my mind here. The one with the big mud hole with the balls where they have to like knock people out. Like, I love those. Those are super entertaining to me.
I think you're thinking of the wrong season, but.
No, it's like the first challenge where like Tina punches, quote unquote, punches.
The rings. The
rings.
Toss.
That's it. The rings. Sometimes it's a ball. Yeah, it's ring toss was, I think.
That's different though. That one's all political.
Yeah, but see, I enjoy it from that, and I also really liked.
I think it's got to be pushover or roller derby, and then I like pole dance as well.
I thought Throwback was pretty good.
Gross, but it's a competitive one at least.
Yeah, I liked Throwback, the one with the Russian swing and the swimming. That was pretty good. Rafty Race was entertaining. It wasn't a great challenge, but it was so entertaining.
That one might actually be number 1.
Yeah, I think of entertainment factor.
Rafty Race and Dine and Dash combined.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would say it's between Rafty Race and Ring Toss for me. That would be my 2.
People running with both personalities is like a new thing for me. I think they should do that more often.
Brad has another good moment here where he beats Wes pretty easily in this. And the final round for the men is Brad versus CT. And CT wins by a pretty good margin. And this is another challenge that's made for CT. And the reason that I say that is because I remember that there was an interview with Evan at one point on a podcast. And he talked about how he was with CT at one point at kind of like some type of gym where they have one of those like peg climbing things where you kind of like there's holes in the wall.
The peg boards. Pegs. I've done those before. It's hard. Yeah. Man.
And
it's so hard. I couldn't finish it.
He said that CT was there like pretty much like racing against people and betting cigarettes on it.
I remember that. I remember that. That was really fun.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. This like anything with climbing, like CT has a pretty good advantage. Like the only person that he may not have an advantage against is like Alton, but
Landon's pretty good climber.
That's about it.
Landon's good too. True. That would have been interesting. I would have liked to see that.
So those 3. But
man, if only CT hadn't gotten kicked off the Duel 2, how amazing would that season have been?
I don't know, man. That season's him fighting Adam. There's like the only drama that happens.
I will kindly disagree, and we'll talk about it when we get to that season.
You're in on the Paula Dunbar Kim love triangle.
Oh no, that's a hot steaming pile of garbage.
Or the Brad Torrey engagement drama.
No.
That's all that's it for me.
Anissa in the first women's heat tells DM that she's not going to vote for her if she gets put in. And Jody ends up winning the challenge for the women, which gets us into the selection process. And Wes has to pick between Svetlana and Anissa to be safe. And because they're trading off, it is Svetlana's turn to be safe, which means Anissa will go into the duel. And Anissa calls out DM after moments ago she told DM that she would not be calling DM out, which, like, and then when DM calls out Anissa for this, for having a hypocritical moment, Anissa says, well, she only said that because she thought that DM was going to be safe, or that, like, she wouldn't even have the opportunity.
That's bullshit.
Is, like, a really, like, it's a really head-scratching moment.
Has she not been
like, don't even say that you're
missions with Jody?
It's like, why even say that you're not going to, like, call her out? It's, like, really unnecessary at this point.
It is, because, like, Jody's safe. Anissa and Svetlana have an alliance. Like, who else is Anissa going to call out but DM? I mean, really, it's a bad look for Anissa.
One of the caveats to this challenge is that the winner of the elimination is the person who comes in second on the elimination gets to, no, that's the next one. So Anissa draws I can. After the challenge, CT tries to motivate DM for the elimination, and we get into the duel, and instead of watermelons or
Laws was the other one. Yeah.
We get coffee bags for the item that they have to guess how many they can lift.
What are they pulling this stuff out of?
Coffee's a huge export of Brazil.
It's just them walking down to the Brazilian market and see where they could buy the most of for the cheapest.
That's exactly what it was, because you have to know those watermelons were rotten and somebody's burnt that wood by now.
Anissa, well, it gets up to 150 coffee bags, which I think that's
a lot of weight, man.
For either one of them. And Anissa challenges DM to go lift it. Anissa tries to lift it, and she can't budge it. It's a pretty emotional moment, and
it's pretty sad.
EJ calls the challenge over, declares Anissa the winner, and DM has to go home. It's a tough moment, especially after all that we've seen from DM last season and this season, and all of the narrative that's occurred between CT and DM. DM says that in a confessional that CT has given her a lot of confidence, and that she's not ashamed about being herself now after everything that she's been through. And this is not the end of CT and DM. We will see more of this to come. But episode 15 begins. CT tells Jody that they're all afraid of him, and CT and Jody are now teaming up to be partners because Evan was previously partners with Jody. He is gone now, and DM is now gone. So CT needs a partner in all challenges where the men and the women have to team up. In my notes here, did either of you, so when they were eating breakfast before they went to the challenge for this episode, did either of you see how many white plates, just like white ceramic plates, were available at the buffet?
No, I didn't catch that.
So there are, at this point, 6 people left, I think.
There's like 40. Oh my gosh. It's a lot of plates.
Like, what happened here? This was like a huge mishap. There's at least 40 plates just like stacked up next to...
Maybe the staff is eating too.
That's something that caught me off guard. But we get into...
One thing too, I think it's funny here, depending on what color you think CT is wearing, everybody's either green or yellow, which are also the colors of the Brazilian flag.
We get into the challenge for the episode, which is called Paddle Me. Men and women will compete in pairs. One person from the pair will jump from the dock and into the water and swim to their partner waiting on a 9-foot surfboard in the water. The partners will paddle on the surfboard out to an island where they will find another surfboard for their partner. at this point, each individual will swim back to the starting point on their own surfboard. First, male and female that are able to return back on their surfboard, win safety from the duel, because this will be a male and a female duel day before the final. And if you win, you're safe for the final, automatically going to the final. If you finish second, and this is what I thought was happening in the last episode, but it's happening here. If you win, or finish second, excuse me, you have to pick the duel game. And this is where Brad says that he's nervous about having Aneesa as a partner. And once the challenge starts, they both are like way behind, and Brad pretty much wants to give up because at this point he knows he's going into the duel that night and doesn't want to waste any of his energy for something that doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's
CT
true.
also has has an interesting confessional here where he says that he thinks, because CT and Jody are the first people to reach the island in the water when they split up and each have their own surfboard, but he says that he thinks Jody was coasting and not giving like a full amount of energy as they got to the island, which if she did, that's a good strategy for her, because what happens is Jody is actually the first person to finish the challenge, even ahead of all the men, with Wes finishing shortly behind her after he was able to pass up CT. I thought this one was pretty good.
Yeah, this was good. Brad and Aneesa are way behind. This is like a precursor to Duel 2.
I mean, quite frankly, and again, like Aneesa is fun on the show. If I'm getting paired with her in something like this, I'm contemplating faking drowning just to not expend my energy, because I know that we're not going to get there first, and it's a race, and so there's really no chance that we're going to win. Or
I mean, there are a lot of bad female swimmers on the show now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember this last. We talk about the last season so often, but like it just by the end of it, there were so many bad female swimmers.
Yeah. And like it's so interesting to see how far behind they were. Like on the camera shots they show them, it is astounding how far back they were. And I mean, this is exhausting. And here's the other thing that's exhausting about this: like they're in. I mean, there's a huge wake and current going on. I mean, it's a hard swim.
CT finishes second for the men. He will go into the duel against Brad, and he decides that he wants to push me for the elimination game. Svetlana will go in against Aneesa because Jody won. And Svetlana finished second and decides to pick I Can, which talk about one of like the most head-scratching moments of the season.
I completely disagree.
All right, Rob.
Okay.
Hot take.
No,
everybody, this is a hot take. Go for it.
Oh, okay. So if Svetlana is going up against Aneesa has stated she wants to perform on the elimination, and if she does I Can, she wants to be the one to lift it after the last time. She said that. So if you pick I Can, then you know you can just rack up whatever the item is until she can't do it anymore.
Yeah, but Aneesa has clearly shown that she says something and then doesn't do it. It just happened with DM.
Yeah, but I think that's like, a different circumstance.
Get it. No, it's the same thing. Like people.
If I'm Svetlana, I'm wanting a center.
Yes, it's the safe bet. She's going to beat.
I don't even know if it's the safe bet. Aneesa's already won a center.
Yeah, but I think that just because she's won it, like that doesn't mean that like she would have an advantage against Svetlana. Who did Aneesa go against in a center? Robin.
Yeah,
and Robin like spent like 20 seconds trying to like release the like bag of puzzle pieces from the monkey bar and still almost won.
Yeah, but
like, I think I agree with Trace.
Because if I'm Svetlana, you don't want to do pole wrestle against Aneesa. It's just not a good idea. I can, like Devin said, we've already seen that Aneesa's not going to be truthful on something like this probably.
Wow.
So, I can't take her for her word on that. And then what's the other one? The pushover, whatever. I mean, Svetlana won it because Beth, screwed up. That's really what it boiled down to, or the carabiner was just a piece of crap and didn't matter anyway. So if I'm Svetlana, Ascender is my best chance of winning on paper.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think she has at least a 50-50 shot on I Can.
Yeah, and I think she has a way better chance on Ascender.
I don't think she's a way better chance at 50-50 on Ascender. Why is she so much better than Anissa at it?
Because Anissa can't climb.
Yeah, I was about to say.
She couldn't release the puzzle pieces. She was up there trying to release the puzzle pieces, couldn't, and still almost beat her.
Almost came back. So yeah, that's why I'm saying like I would do Ascender, and even if it was me on the show, I would pick Ascender over any of the rest of those games because there's just too much. I mean, with pole wrestle, it's just who's stronger. So if it's me against most of this cast, I don't want to find that out because I want to win money, and you just don't know how someone's going to show up. If it's you're hoping that you can estimate how much weight is there, and then think about how much you can deadlift, and then add weight because that weight is so evenly distributed on a pendulum almost that if you can just get it off the ground, you're going to do it. And so, but it's a 50-50, like one of you isn't competing. So at the end of the day, I would try to pick Ascender every single time if given the opportunity.
I think this is the move.
This gets us into the elimination. Yeah, and I guess the final point that I would make is I don't think it's 50-50. Like that's what I think. I think you're putting way too much stock into something that like Anissa said like in an offhand comment. Like I think what I have
sense, and I think we've already discussed that this is pretty much a 50-50 shot anyway. So if you already have some sort of advantage going into it, then I mean
it's a 50-50 chance you're going to compete in it, and then there's like the chance that you can actually lift it or hope they can't lift it. I mean, if anything, I would peg it at like you have a 25% chance of winning.
She's just so much weaker than Svetlana. Svetlana's just so much weaker than Anissa. Like so much weaker. Like how much weight do you think Anissa has on Svetlana?
Like I don't think it's as much as we think.
It's not that much, but
yeah, it is. I bet she has 30 pounds on her.
Looking at them, I would say that Anissa is stronger than Svetlana.
To say nothing about women's weight, being completely objective.
Yeah, let's be careful here.
Like completely from a competition perspective. All right, let's just
think
get
it's
to
that
the
significant.
Yeah, let's just move on. Let's just move on there.
The first elimination is between Brad and CT. It's Push Me. And this is one of the few moments from older seasons that I can like actually remember where I was when I saw this happening on TV. And CT says that he picks Brad because he doesn't have any leg strength. And as the challenge starts on Push Me, CT literally just starts screaming, blows Brad off the line, and starts screaming, "You're done," to him repeatedly, because he pretty much is. Like, Brad had no chance here. And as CT is reaching down to take the flag and the carabiner with him, he rips the flag off the Velcro and loses the elimination. And chaos just completely ensues.
I mean,
because CT's reaction is the reaction to like everyone else watching that is completely bullshit. He just smoked Brad, and now he's going home because like the production crew can't fasten a flag to a carabiner.
Yep. And here's the thing. I'm watching this right now. They zoom in on the carabiner and the flag before the elimination. Okay. This thing is on, you know how like a keychain has like that metal ring on it? And some of them that you get, like, let's say from like a real keychain, they're pretty thick. This is the one you get when you take your car to like the shop and they put it on a temporary flimsy key ring. That is what this flag is on. And so like, it's basically a circular paper clip. So the moment you rip that flag, that thing is breaking. Like there is no chance. If you don't grab the carabiner, it's going to break.
CT just starts to go crazy. At one point, he starts to get into an altercation with Wes about what happened. Wes is pretty much just telling him to go home, and CT is just telling him to shut up. And
well, he also he gets pretty serious here. He accuses CT of having a fake relationship with Diem.
That was pretty low.
I mean, at this point, they're just trading low blows. Like they're both just like as upset as you can get, pretty much. And
What, West hops over the barrier
CT goes
and starts shouting at him?
Yeah, it was. In my notes here, I have, and I think there's an answer to this somewhere, where I wonder how long this went in real time, because I think the answer is that it went on for a very long time, and that they actually like brought the production crew out and like had a conversation about what they were going to do, and that this stretched on for much longer than we see in the show, or that was indicated in the show.
Way longer. Like, I think CT shouting at TJ was way longer just to get Wes more riled up. I think the two of them shouting at each other was longer.
Yeah, but the thing is it wasn't going to change the decision because we've already seen Beth go home for the same thing. So it's like they can't make an exception for you, CT. I'm sorry. Like you did get screwed here, and I do think that rule is bullshit because you should actually have the flag fastened on something that wouldn't break. I mean, I think this is just production. Just really
he should know better. Yes, Beth certainly has more of a case here than CT does, though. He's already seen it.
It was the same issue, though, that they were like shaking the pole like while they were like reaching down to get it. But I think this is what this reminds me of. So if you, I know when like Brad like gets in his way, I guess that's the part that I don't know if I stated at this point, but Brad is like actively like kind of like pushing the pole in CT's way. It's like he's pretty much done for at this point, and like gets in his way enough that it contributes to this, to the point that the flag comes off. But yeah, I don't know. That it's tough. It's tough for CT. It's a really rough moment. We get to that's the moment where everyone looked down at their iPhones and was like, did a break in the show just happened?
It was just kind of, I'm still just watching it, and I'm just rewatching it as we're talking. It just, God, like as many times as production kept zooming in on the carabiner and the ring, it was just exposing, like this thing was basically held together by a piece of duct tape, basically. And it just like, why do you want to expose how shitty your rigging is? Like, I just, This is the last I'll say about it, is it reminds me of like the issues that were going on with like what constitutes a catch in the NFL, like as recent as a year ago at this point. Did either of you listen to GM Street with Mike Lombardi on The Ringer, that podcast? Yeah, actually, yes, I did listen to that.
So he talked about how like this is like the whole issue was like completely insane, and about how Mike Holmgren used to talk about how like the best way to like tell if someone was a catch. This is just like purely anecdotal, not actually the best way, but like what Mike Holmgren used to say is that, or may still say, that if you pull four guys in a bar and ask them whether or not it was a catch, then chances are it's a catch if all four of them said that it was a catch. Like that's how you should loosely be defining what a catch is, right? If you pulled five people here and asked them who won this without like knowing any of the rules, every single one of them would have said that CT should have won.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, 100%. Like you can't really tell he ripped it that much just by the way they shoot it. It's just people talking about it afterwards.
That's the thing. It's so weird. But
Johnny Mosley's still been involved with the production team, apparently.
God, that really is a Johnny Mosley moment, bro. I'm sorry, it's the rule. Blow his whistle.
He would have not handled this well.
No.
Like, this was like, honestly,
he'd have been like, CT, calm down, man. Like, dude, calm down.
This should just be Rivals 2 reunion precursor where CT's screaming at him, but he has no idea what.
Mind your business. I could just see CT. Hey, Mosley, mind your business.
I think he would have killed him, honestly. Like, I know we're laughing, but it up again.
CT at this point really might have tried to physically assault Johnny Mosley.
TJ does a really good job here. Like, he handles this situation very well.
He's like, dude, that's the rules, bro. It's the rules, man. Sorry.
He would have, like, this could have been CT versus Adam precursor, too, if Johnny Mosley's involved.
Oh, my gosh.
That gets us to the women's elimination. They go back and forth, trade blows. It gets to 73 logs. I guess I didn't say it. Instead of coffee bags or watermelons, they go back to logs this time. They like logs. They have logs laying around. They will lift logs today. And they have to lift. Yeah, the bidding gets up to 73 logs. Svetlana challenges her to lift the logs. Anissa can't lift them up for 5 seconds. Anissa goes home, and as TJ gives Svetlana, I'm guessing, her third Seiko watch of the season. Or no, it wasn't a Seiko watch. It was a phone. It was a Nokia phone with a year of service.
Yeah, I like when he hands it over too. It's not even a box. It's just a phone.
It's just the phone. Hey, this is the thing we've been sending you guys clues all year. Just take it. Here's what's really interesting, though. I wish we had access to the after shows, because CT was the after show for this episode, and God, I would love to hear that interview between Blair and him.
Please tell me Johnny Mosley was the host.
No, it was Blair.
Ah, darn.
This is also an interesting moment where TJ, like a proud father, tells Anissa that he's really proud of her and gives Anissa her jacket, or his jacket, which I thought was really funny. And I feel like there's a lot more behind that would have been fun to know about.
I mean, how many eliminations did she see? Like 4?
A lot. Is it 4?
It's at least 3.
Yeah, she wins 3.
At least 3. Yeah, so I think she saw 4.
Is winning.
You have to. On the record books, if you look in the challenge record books. Those should be
scratched from the record. There's a few eliminations that need to be scratched under the record. These ones, the Nani Georgia one, and anything from Final Reckoning, all should be like abolished.
Especially Final Reckoning, where they rigged the eliminations. Ugh.
For when we get to Final Reckoning, we're doing that in one episode.
There's no way we can do that entire season in one episode. That would be.
It's like 18 1-hour episodes. Ugh. Brutal.
We're not going episode. We're not going episode by episode. We're just going to do 30 minutes where we talk about it and have the airing.
Move on.
It's not that bad. If you go back,
it's not that bad, but it's not good either. That's the problem. I remember being so hyped for that season and just being let down episode after episode.
Oh, at the very least, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there is a lot to talk about, because they finally did something cool, but they screwed it up. So, anyways, I guess we're to the final now of the duel.
Episode 16 starts. Yep, the duel is about to be over. And this is a fun fact for people that follow the challenge closely. This reunion was also live. So Battle of the Seasons 2 was not the only.
That's right. They actually had
rivals too.
They were in the they cut to the live people before they start the episode. So yeah.
So maybe they can go back to live.
Brad says that
not with Johnny Mosley as the host.
Brad says that he's really happy with everyone that's in the final 4 for the men and the women. Jody says that she wants to give some money to charity if she wins. Brad says that he's building a house. Svetlana says that she wants to use the money to go through med school. And we get a comment from Wes where he says he doesn't really care which girls made it to the end. We get a lot of Wes comments in these last 2 episodes after he knows he's already guaranteed to go to the final, and after he knows that he already won, where he becomes fresh meat Wes. And we really don't see that until these last couple of episodes.
Which is weird. You figured they'd give him more of like a positive edit here.
Well, I
don't think he gave them a positive edit to work with.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I think like he had plenty of screen time up until now. Like I think that he just wasn't like acting that way. And then once he knows he's making it to the final, and
then he knows he's won when he's talking about the final.
Most of these confessionals are probably filmed after
he's just letting it rip. Say it again.
Because he looks so smug. My gosh, the smugness coming off of him in this final episode in the confessionals. Like, dude, I just won $150,000. Not a single person that has done the challenge before me has won this much money on the show. Ha! Like, that is the vibe he's giving off.
Yeah, this is like, there's not a single ounce of humility here. But
and quite frankly, I wouldn't have. If I was in his shoes, I probably would have felt the same way at the time. I mean, nowadays they play for $1 million. Back then, $150,000 was the biggest pot that a single winner was ever going to see, and they were shocked. And so, if I'm West, I'm like, dude, I just made all these vets and.
Dude, confessionals and finals are like almost mini spoilers. Honestly, you can just tell what happens to each person by how they look in the confessional.
This is true.
For the final, they're picked up in a helicopter, and they find out that the final is at this point, or do they still call all the finals handsome reward for the episode?
No, this is called
the Rio deal.
Yeah, that's good. I don't mind that.
Yeah. It's fun.
The final is a foot race with 2 checkpoints along the way. At the end of the course, there are 2. I'm going to get to that. At the end of the course, because as TJ explains it, he brings it up later too. So at the end of the course, there are 2 flags, one for a man and one for a woman. This flag allows you to quote TJ, ride to the finish, which essentially means like once you grab the flag, it's over. And then for the theatrical drama, you get to paraglide down to the bottom of the mountain, because this race goes up through the jungle into the top of a mountain. But $150,000 will go to the male winner and $150,000 will go to the female winner. And the challenge will start with the finalists competing in a penalty kick matchup, a soccer penalty kick matchup against each other. And the men will go against the men and the women will compete against each other. And you get 5 shots against your opponent. And the person that makes the most penalty kick gets a 2-minute advantage / head start in the final. And this is like a really like head scratching production moment. Like,
I don't think so.
Even out of the ones that, I don't know. It's just
I get it, but man, like the whole theme of this season is it's one-on-one, it's the duel, and you give someone a 2-minute advantage. To me,
what's more one-on-one than a penalty shootout?
This is hindsight, though. I would rather see them race one-on-one like they've done in every other season to this point. They didn't give 2-minute advantages or 5-minute head starts on the final in any previous season, and then out of nowhere, it's like, hey, we're going to give you a 2-minute advantage if you do this. It's just like, I don't know. Like, I get they did it.
It weights it too heavily.
Okay, well, what would you prefer? The 2-minute advantage for the penalty shootout at the beginning of the final, or what they do now?
I would say don't do an advantage, period.
An advantage for the second day.
I would
no advantages. No advantages. Just let them go.
Just let them go.
I think this is
let it rip.
They're in present. Well, also, all the steps of this final, like, are any of these steps less skill involved than a penalty shootout?
No, but the rest of it's a race, and it's like, I just don't like the idea of giving someone a head start in a duel. Like, if you go by the name, and I'm going to be super literal here, in a real duel with swords or guns or whatever you're going to duel with, no one gets a 2-minute advantage.
Yeah, but this is part of it, though. The penalty shootout is more of a duel than any of these events.
It's just weighted too heavily. Like that's all. That's what wins.
It's what gives Wes the win, because he and Brad were pretty even the whole way. And I think it would have made for a more exciting finish if the two of them are going heads up. I mean, in reality, if I'm being completely transparent, why I think production did it is the stairway was too narrow for both of them to run up at the same time, so they had to stagger them. If I'm being, that is exactly why they did it.
I just think you
can't. Observation.
Like, none of these events they're competing in are significantly different in terms of how much skill is involved versus the penalty shootout. I'd say the penalty shootout is the most like predictive skill wise of any of these things. Like, it's just puzzles and like wonky weight based stuff.
Yeah, but throughout the rest of the checkpoints, it's not like if you finish the checkpoint first, you get a 2-minute advantage. It happens throughout the course.
No, but it's how much you finish it ahead by. You can't do that with the penalty shootout. I guess you can have it where they both take 5 shots and then.
I know, just don't do the shootout.
That's what I'm saying.
I think that's they want that though. That's like part of the final. Like, each of these events that's just an event in the final.
It's just with the benefit of hindsight that it comes down to the season was pretty much on penalty kicks. That's what it is. Like, it was pretty much like done.
Yeah. I'm with
not really.
In that it is the benefit of hindsight.
Wes has like a pretty much like outsized advantage here. Like that, like he happened to play soccer and Brad happened to play football. You know what I mean? That's what
Brad happened to be a tangram aficionado and they had a tangram that he smokes Wes on. Is it the same thing?
No, because it's not an advantage. You do a puzzle as a leg of the final. It's not something that says
that's what
you have to stand here. you have to stand here for 2 minutes and wait.
Well, but you have to interpret that as part of a leg of the final.
All right, so
I don't think we're going to agree on this. I think we're just going to have our stances and we'll move on.
I just think
I'm going to say this
is that your stance is definitely the more common one here. Like, you guys are in the popular position here. I don't see what makes the penalty shootout so different from any other portion of this final.
All right, I'm going to say this and then we're going to move on. Wes, I'm calling you out right now. I think this win that you have here is complete bullshit. Your entire time on Duel was completely overrated. And I would smoke you penalty kicks. So we're moving on now. Anna goes 1 for 5. Brad also goes 1 for 5. Wes gets the first 2 goals. And
okay, really quick. If they played this 100 times, how many times out of 100 does Wes beat Brad?
Every time.
Like 80?
I don't, dude. I'm closer to Trace. I think it's every time.
I think it's almost every time. Like, Wes played soccer a lot. And Brad had no idea what he was doing. High.
I think it's like 98 or 9. Maybe 1 or 2 times Wes twisted.
Like, you have to allow for the fact that Wes slipped and hurt his knee. Like, that's about the only.
that's the 1 or 2 times he doesn't win.
Wes comes like when they start this, like Wes comes out like dribbling the ball on his foot. Like
he's juggling like he's like Cristiano Ronaldo walking up to the ball.
It's clear that like Brad has no chance here. And Svetlana, like I said before, makes 1 for 5. Jody, it comes down to her last shot. And on her last shot, she makes her second goal and gets the 2-minute advantage. Svetlana is a straight on kicker. If neither of you noticed that. So
no, I noticed that.
I don't think I was doing too much analysis of her kicking style. I'm sorry. like TJ should have like in the same way that you like show like a kid like how to hold like a baseball bat when they're like ready to like hit off a tee. TJ should have like gone over and showed her how to like kick a soccer ball.
Wes really should have gone over and showed her.
It was very clear that she's never had to like. Someone should have just to like at least make it somewhat fair. But
dude, I feel like
she still almost won. She went 1 for 5. But
I feel like if
the race begins,
like TJ would have been like Corey and Nelson in the first elimination on Vendettas.
Oh God.
The race begins, and what I thought was interesting is that Jody is actually ahead of Wes by the time that they get to the first checkpoint and have to complete the puzzle. So she's moving at a pretty good pace here. And the first checkpoint is competitors must take these like giant blocks that have on each side of the blocks a colored circle and move these blocks up to another point higher up on the hill, and then take these blocks and position them on this like metal rack in a way that none of the circles on the sides of the blocks have the same color on the top, bottom, front, and back. Like there's a game like this, isn't there? What is it?
Well, they play variants of this a lot.
Yeah, they've done a lot of different versions of this, but like I think what's really interesting here is Brad is 15 seconds behind Wes at this point. Like he made up the 2 minutes, and he's literally right behind Wes on the puzzle, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah, Brad finishes right after Wes finishes. Brad finishes as well. They go to the second checkpoint, and the second checkpoint is there's this giant teeter-totter, and contestants must place rocks on one side of the teeter-totter and balance themselves on the other side of the teeter-totter so that neither side is touching the ground for a consecutive 5 seconds. Once you do this, you can move on to the final checkpoint, which is you just grabbing the flag. Wes finishes first, and Brad finishes soon after. Wes even had a confessional where Brad was apparently like ahead of him after the first checkpoint at some point, but it was pretty much neck and neck. And
I guess Wes really struggled with those blocks.
Back at the first checkpoint, Svetlana and Jody are still trying to figure it out. Jody finishes the puzzle with 4 minutes left before she reaches the maximum amount of time you can spend on the puzzle, which to say it is 30 seconds. Svetlana does max out the time. You can't figure out the puzzle. Wes races to the end to grab the flag. Brad is soon behind him. He says that it's it was disappointing for him that it came down to a kickoff. Jody gets past the teeter-totter, and Svetlana gets past it, but Jody has a significant lead as she finishes the second checkpoint. She grabs the flag at the top of the mountain, starts to cry, and Wes and Jody paraglide to the ground. And in my notes I have, it's incredible that Svetlana made it this far, which she has a really good season, and it would have been interesting to see how she would grow throughout more appearances on the challenge. And we don't get
that happen, unfortunately.
And then I guess the last part, the one thing that I have left in my notes is Wes starts to cry at the finish, gives TJ a hug, and says that he wants to spend the rest of his life with Johanna. So we continue to get that narrative as well.
But not for long.
Thoughts about the season as a whole, kind of, I don't know. I feel like we've done a pretty good job with it. As we've gone throughout this, we've sprinkled in what we think of the season, these last 6 episodes, I guess. What do we want to close with?
There's 2 things I would like to close with. Number one, I did not vote this as the top number 1 of our top 6 seasons episode, and the people did. And on the rewatch, Rob did as well. On the rewatch of this season, it is very enjoyable start to finish. And I stand by my opinion that it is a top 6, but it is not number 1.
Well, where would you have it now?
I think I had it 5, and I think that's
5 or 6.
It was 5 or 6.
You had it at 6. You had it below the island, which is just so offensive.
I would still maintain that if I said 5 or 6, it's still 5 or 6. It's a great season, but there are better seasons out there, in my opinion.
Where did I have this?
You didn't have it ranked.
Yeah, it was not in your top 6.
It's all a disaster.
I don't know. It's fine. Like when I went through watching these episodes, it was good, but at no point in my time was I really locked in on what was going on.
I think the storylines this season are just so much better than anything else, any of the other seasons the show has to offer. If we're looking at best, let's break it down a little more. So if we're looking at best characters here, who do we think it is? Is it DM?
Yeah.
Yeah, DM's probably the best character with a close runner-up. Mostly, I would say, oh gosh, I think Evan is probably the runner-up character-wise.
Really?
Yeah,
no, I think CT and Wes are both ahead of Evan.
Who?
Evan is what I said.
And Wes.
I think CT.
I think CT and Wes are both ahead of Evan. But that's what I'm saying. Evan, the 3 of those guys, and Brad, who's also a really good character on this.
Brad was also good. I mean, that's the thing. This cast is amazing. It's still an amazing cast.
I think Wes doesn't have a ton of visibility until this last segment of episodes here.
His politicking is pretty. He's the one who's organizing the alliance between Anissa.
Alliance. It's falling apart around them. Literally the only reason
he's trying to pick up the pieces.
No, they don't even show it. Literally the only.
They show that a lot in the first.
The only reason he wins is because no one wants to call him into the elimination because he's strong in eliminations. That's what wins it. I don't know what politicking he really does here.
I mean, what I'm saying, anytime that Anissa and Beth are talking about their alliance, Wes is involved.
Yeah, but I don't know how many times Wes is actually physically present. He was definitely part of that alliance in the way that everyone in the season is part of an alliance at some point.
Yeah. Realistically, though, and this is where I will give Wes a ton of props about this season, beating Derek and Pole Russell is a huge feather in your cap, and it really is the best elimination of all time in the show. There's not even a close second, in my opinion. It is the best elimination in the history of the show, and this season is super memorable for that moment and for CT and DM's relationship, and then the rest of it is just decent TV. But the thing is those 2 moments are so iconic. CTDM, Derek West, and Pole Russell that I think it overinflates how good the season is.
Oh, I think you guys are out of your mind. I think just Lana and Anissa storylines are really good, and the Beth versus the Popular Girls Alliance.
But that's every season, though.
Yeah, that was really good.
No,
yeah,
it's not every season.
It's good, but it's every season.
Beth was really good in this. I'll say that. She may be the second best character, to be honest. Or she may be the best.
No, DM I think is definitely the best.
Yeah,
I think
I would
Wes
say
and CT
DM
are,
is
like,
the
tied for
best.
second.
Yeah, but Beth is the second best female character for sure. Like that is not in question there.
Well,
I
like
give you
Jody
wins the
I think, is still
season.
pretty interesting, and Anissa and Svetlana are both really good characters this season too.
What is the most memorable moment from the season for you?
That's so hard. Because you got
West
DM
Derek
taking off
pole wrestle for me. That's no
DM
question.
taking off her wig is pretty like iconic too.
Mm-hmm. That's a cool.
You could
moment.
argue those are like the top two moments in like the show's history.
Mm-hmm.
Top 3 because them kissing, her taking off her wig, and then pole wrestle.
Yeah.
I think you guys are not giving this season nearly enough credit.
I'm not saying it's a bad season. Like that's the thing. I just
I think
that there are better seasons top to bottom.
Crazy.
Say it again.
I just think having it outside your top 4 is crazy.
It doesn't entertain me that much. Like, I mean, I think it's a good season, but like, I don't love it. You know what I mean? And for me, if it's going to be in like my top like 3 or 4 or whatever, however many you want to go up to until it gets to it, like I've got to like love it if it's that high.
And the thing is like for me, and this is me personally here too. I would say that like, hey, if I'm going to show someone a season of the challenge and I want to say, this is the season, this is the reason that I love this show. Like the Duel is not the season where I go, if you don't like this season, you will hate the rest of the show. I feel like you would have enough pull here on this season to say like, there's these iconic moments, but as a viewer coming in cold, who's never seen the show, the season won't resonate for them like it does longtime fans of the show.
I mean, a lot of these storylines are developed, though. Like the CT-DM relationship is developed this season. The Svetlana stuff is only this season. A lot of the West stuff is developed this season.
Here's a question that I feel like I hear people talk about with Survivor a lot, and I don't know if we've ever talked about it on this show, but like if you have someone that comes to you and says like, I want to start watching the show, what season do you recommend to them? Because
it's a different question. I mean, depending on the person, I think.
Yeah, I would say for Survivor, it's heroes villains. Like that's to me for essential of the show.
No, for the challenge.
For the challenge, though.
Yeah. So because you have to keep in mind that like if you don't want to like necessarily start them off at the beginning because like they could just lose interest.
No.
So like
you definitely don't want them to watch Battle of the Sexes 1. God.
So which season do you recommend to them?
Well, are they starting? Okay, have they never watched the show before at all and are trying to
never seen the show? They know nothing about it. They hear from like you or someone else that like it's kind of good and that they should get into it.
If they're trying to get into the show, they should watch War of the Worlds 1 first. It will have the most modern resonance.
Yeah, I'm fine with
that answer. I will stick with what my top season is Rivals 1. But War of the Worlds 1 is an excellent
based
answer.
on the history of the show, though.
But they develop and flash. They literally flash back to everything that led up to those rivals in the first episode.
But you need to see those relationships develop for me for a lot of it. War of the Worlds 1 has a little bit of that too, but I actually think they do a really, really good job of. Because the only relationships that play into War of the Worlds 1 are at the beginning. You have the Smash v. Hunter stuff, which I think they developed really well. And
Bananas Bless.
Yeah, but both those are gone early. Like those storylines are taken care of and shipped out. Everything else is developed that season. Yeah. With Rivals 1, all those relationships are like pre-existing ones. Like even like the Paula, Kenny West stuff. That stuff is all.
That's all pre-existing, and I don't disagree with you. I just think, like, from a viewer standpoint, they do show you the history, and then there's new history that develops throughout the season that is entertaining as all hell, aside from the really good challenges that occur. But I also could say, like, I think World of Worlds 1 is a great answer, because it is a great season start to finish, and you're right, there's enough self-contained storylines that someone could watch the show cold. I mean, even World of Worlds 2, my wife has never watched a season of this show, but she watched every episode of World of Worlds 2 with me and now wants to go back and watch more. So it depends.
Yeah, I had a friend who, I don't know how he got into it. Someone that, like, he knew that I watched the show for years. Like, we've known each other for, like, at this point, like 8 years, maybe longer. And randomly, like, he reaches out to me and says that he's watching this season because he lives back in Denver. And I still haven't asked him, like what possessed you, like, after all this time to, like, start watching the show on War of the Worlds too. So I'd be interesting to know, like, the stories of some people about, like, what got them into the show and, like, like how it, like, caught their eye. I think that'd be kind of cool.
I know of at least 3 people in my hemisphere that watched War of the Worlds because of Big Brother. Like, they were such Big Brother fans that when they heard some people
like
from
Pauly
Big Brother,
Pauly
and Josh, and, like, some people were shocked that Victor was on the show. I mean, people that really love Big Brother, I think, are checking out the challenge because those characters are developed really well on Big Brother.
I know from my experience, I've had a lot of people play the fantasy game that I run now, and then I'll just tell them just join up because it's free and they can just pick whoever they want out of the randoms that they can see on the show. And then a lot of them will actually kind of jump in through that just out of curiosity, and then they'll get hooked.
I have a friend who is a really big Big Brother fan, and he doesn't watch the challenge. And randomly, I texted him because of maybe something that I was watching on the show at the time, and I was like, how did Josh win Big Brother? And his response was, I ask myself that a lot.
I talked about this with Pat. His in-game awareness last season was so bad.
His what?
There's just his awareness of what was going on around him.
Yeah, Josh was trying to play nice, and he didn't realize he was in a game of backstabber.
He just seemed out to lunch. Well, one other funny thing, I guess, is I guess Wes only wins seasons with live reunions.
This is true. He's only won Rivals 2 in the Duel.
Yeah, he needs to start pitching Bune and Murray to do it again.
I don't know, man. The climate of the show now, I love Wes as a character, and he will make, if he continues doing the show past season 35, and who knows how he does on season 35, because for the people listening, I literally am spoiler free. I have no idea what happens on this upcoming season. My guess is he makes it pretty far just from the trailer. The intensity of that trailer makes me think he's going to make it far. But I don't know that he has it in him to win another final, because some of the athletes that are on this show are so good that it would have to be a War of the Worlds 2 type situation where it's a team of 4. Like,
I think he could win. Who could he not beat in the final now besides Jordan? That's on this next cast.
Turbo? Well,
that's on this next cast.
I would still say he'd have trouble with CT. Jordan.
He could beat CT in a final. Jordan he couldn't
sure.
beat. CT he could definitely beat.
I don't know. I think Big T might have a shot. You know, she's pretty solid. No,
yeah, great.
Still bitter about her getting stuck on my fantasy team.
Yeah, for anyone who wants to know, I also have Trey saved as Big T on my phone now.
I'm so bitter. They picked 2 alternates, and I get stuck with Big T. You know what's going to be really hilarious?
She's going to make the final
to the end, and she's going to make it to the final as the layup for the women.
Yeah, I'm excited. April 1st.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about that, because our next show is a bonus episode. We're going to break down the trailer and do some season 35 predictions. It's going to be fun.
Yep. So if you have any comments that you want to send us before, well, now in real time, that episode's going to go out way before the one that we just recorded. Well,
yeah, depending on the schedule. Yeah, I would say that realistically, if you send us your comments about what you want us to talk about on the prediction show, it probably won't make air because of the timing.
Yeah. Really time dating ourselves.
Either way, we post these on Reddit. We do have a Twitter account at Challenge Chron, CHRON, because Twitter only allows X number of characters. And then you can always email us at thechallengechronicles@gmail.com. You send us a good email, we are liable to read it. So
if you send us an email, you will definitely get a response from me. I think I make an attempt to respond to everyone. So we're happy for everyone that engages in the show, and we really appreciate everyone who listens. So
yeah,
with that, we'll talk to you next time.
Kind of a quick plug here.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So go to YouTube. Just go to the DraftKings YouTube account. You can check out the fantasy preview I did with Pat Mayo. Just search like the challenge Total Madness Fantasy Preview. And also, if you follow my Twitter account, that's at RobMCI16. That's at ROBMCI16. You'll see links to the fantasy game if you want to. It's free to play, fun to play for season 35. If you have people who don't watch the show, it's great to get them hooked on the league. Just have them sign up, and hopefully you can get them to watch the show with you. And then also have recaps of every episode of season 35 as well.
Yeah.
Great. All right. With that, as you listen to this, probably the next episode that will come after this, unless we do a special episode, will probably be Inferno 3, which all of us are probably not too ecstatic about, but we will do our best. Talk to you next time.